I love that sweatshirt.
Thank you. Hey everybody, my name is Aisha Malone. I am the owner and co-founder of Rose Café.
My name is Rebecca Silverman. I am the co-founder and creative director at Rose Café.
And my name is Melodie Williams. I'm author of the book A Confident Me. We're going to talk about today.
Yes, before we start our interview with Miss Williams, I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about Rose Cafe and some of the upcoming things that we have going on. I'll talk a little bit about Rose Cafe and what we stand for. Then Rebecca will talk a little bit about some of the things to expect from us and a little bit about some of the things we've done and where we're moving as a cafe in the Roseland community. So Rose Cafe is a Black-owned cafe that we're trying to bring on the south side of Chicago. One thing we're trying to do is cut the deficits of literacy resources that we do not have in the community. We both believe that because we both are educators, we believe that we know that there's a lot that could come from just having access to books. And what our kids do not have is access. So we decided to bring a cafe into the community that grants them that where they can identify with some of the authors, some of the characters in the book, and so that it can kind of like push the culture forward for what we're looking for at Rose Cafe. Our big motto is books, coffee, and community. So we're heavy on the books. We're trying to partner with a minority-owned coffee company. And with doing all this, we are trying to bring the community together.
And one way we've been bringing the community together just through this, difficult time where everything is remote is through having these book talks. So we've been able to bring people together remotely, having book talks, sharing conversations with authors. We've also been able to have a lot of book drives throughout the community. So we've been collecting donated books, new, beautiful books, and giving them out. We've given about 4,000 books to the Roseland community so far. So that's been really exciting, really fun. And we sell books online, including Confident Me. And we're very happy. We're hoping to be open up this summer.
Wow, that's awesome.
So Melodie, before we start, can you tell us a little about you?
Yeah, for sure. So like I said before, my name is Melodie Williams. I actually graduated from Southern Illinois University in Carbondale, Illinois, back in 2009. A few years ago, I actually started something called Melanin Harmony to promote self-love and love for others among young Black girls. I initiated that with Love Your Melanin and Respect Her Melanin shirts, just to try to get families to talk about colorism, because we know colorism is really big in the Black community, but just trying to combat colorism with those shirts. Kids, obviously, especially little ones, don't know what melanin is, but the goal was to get parents to talk to them about what melanin is and how no matter the shade, their melanin is beautiful. So I actually sent out cards, just kind of giving parents a little script what they can say when they present the shirts to their little ones. And from there, I just really wanted to do something to help instill confidence in like adolescent age girls, where their world is changing, they're changing. And I wanted to do something to try to create a generation of Black women who love themselves and also love each other. So that's how I came up with The Confident Me.
So we want to get into the book because I think we wanted to ask the inspiration. Is that right, Silverman? But you kind of like said it already.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
So, as educators, we kind of go from front to back. So obviously I have to talk to you about the title. Mm-hmm. So the name of the book is A Confident Me, A Black Girl's Guide to Finding Her Inner Confidence. Mm-hmm. And I do know that as Black women, we do want to push the culture, but I was wondering why Black girls, not why all girls?
Yeah, I think everything that's presented is geared toward white girls, or other girls. But there's not too many things that you can find that are specifically for young Black girls. Society today is hard on women, period. And Black women get it really bad, so I wanted to do something that would specifically target young Black girls. You know, me being a woman, I remember growing up and seeing, you know, maybe a little something that was to encourage confidence or things like that, but never with anything specifically written for me, you know. Even if it's written for girls in general, it's by default, it's written for, you know, white girls. So I wanted to do something specifically to reach our young girls.
And so going along with that, just like in order of the book, you talk about self-love at the beginning. And honestly, I really love what you're writing about self-love. Like even as an adult woman, I was like, this is something that I need to learn for myself. So I was wondering if you could talk about, you know, like your journey with self-love and how you talk to young girls about that for someone who might read the book.
So the biggest thing is I just felt like that's the foundation. You know, we can't kind of move forward and be successful in anything if we don't love ourselves. You know, I was a preteen and a teenage girl at one time, and I had insecurities, and, you know, and I dealt with people, you know, who also had insecurities. So it's like because we didn't fully love and accept ourselves, you know, we couldn't really love each other or, you know, walk in our purpose, things like that. So I just wanted to kind of start with something that builds the foundation. And as you go through each chapter, it kind of builds on that foundation of self-love.
You mentioned a little bit that you made yourself a little vulnerable in the book. You talked about some things that you personally battled with. And I wouldn't even necessarily say you battled with it because you said like it never fazed you. Mm-hmm. You were vulnerable. Do you think it was necessary for you to talk about things that literally affected you personally for girls to kind of like say, okay, I believe it? Because sometimes without giving them that vulnerability, they think we're just talking to be talking. So I was wondering, how did you process them? Okay, so I'm gonna tell them like, this is what happened to me when I was in high school. They said this about me. Mm-hmm. Like, why did you go that route to give that much vulnerability?
Yeah, you know, I just really wanted to personalize it. I want them to know, like, whatever you're facing, there's nothing new under the sun. You know, we all face a lot of the same things. You know, so drawing on my own experience is really, you know, the inspiration, you know, part of the inspiration behind the book, you know, and I wanted them to kind of be encouraged by that, you know, because people can tell you anything. And at that age, adults are always saying something, but to make it personal just really has a bigger impact.
I agree, especially for the young readers who are reading this to connect with something, say, oh, that happened to an adult too. It's not just me. Yeah. In addition to the way you talked about yourself, I thought it was interesting how you brought up history and the context and bringing up like specific women like Zora Neale Hurston, which some girls may not have heard of before they read her book in high school. So why did you think it was important to bring up history and context?
Yeah, because like if we don't know like that, those people, they're part of our culture, they're part of who we are. In order for us to really love ourselves, you know, we do have to know where we come from. And those people that I mentioned, they're part of history. They impacted this country, you know, for us. So I just wanted them to be more familiar with that. I'm really big on history too. So I really wanted to, you know, just kind of bring in some things that, you know, that had to do with history. And if you see in the back of the book, I kind of put, you know, kind of explained who those people were, because I know that they may not just know who they are by reading them, but, you know, just so that they would have a better understanding.
And not only did you have who they are, I liked how you had a glossary in the back. Yeah. For a lot of words, because it really shows that it is for young girls. And if they don't know those words, what they mean.
Yeah. I didn't want anyone to be discouraged, like reading it, like, I don't know what that means, you know, but just to be able to flip in the back of the book. When I was in school, you know, my glossary was my go-to in the textbook. So I just wanted to incorporate that in there. Like, I don't want them to, you know, to not want to read it because there are words that they don't understand. But just be able to flip in the back of the book like, oh, okay, I see what she means.
That's good. I like that. I was wondering, because you talk, even in the conversations that we're having now, you're talking a lot about self-love. I think like earlier in the book on like page 2, you mentioned this quote. It said, a lot of times saying I love me, even without the because indicates a form of selflessness, or arrogance to some people. How can you, and just this is for some of the young girls that's probably watching us now, how can you really have self-love for yourself without it coming off as arrogant or too confident? Because you're saying self-love, 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 but then we women, young kids, adults, we get to having a lot of love for ourselves, but then sometimes it can come off as arrogance. How do we talk to teens about that balance?
I think the biggest thing is understanding that self-love and confidence, it's not loud. It's not something that you have to broadcast. It's something within you. You have to wake up, you have to talk to yourself, you have to journal, you have to address the things that, that you're battling with and overcome them in order to have that self-love, and that it, at that point it will start to kind of just pour out of you, and people won't see you as arrogant, but just like, man, like, I just like her. I don't know why. Like, she's just so comfortable with herself, A lot of times we think someone is confident because they're loud, I look great, or this or that, but sometimes that's an insecurity,
I like the way you're talking about like self-love as a way that it's like, it's not just something that happens, like you have to work at it and it's like a daily thing. And it reminds me of how you were talking about kindness. I love that, how it's not like you're not just kind, like kindness is like an umbrella term for all these different actions that you can do to be kind.
Yeah, I wanted girls to understand that with being kind, there are a lot of different things, especially that they might be dealing with, that pertains to being kind. One definition that I explained was loyalty. It's so easy to sit in a lunchroom and hear someone trashing someone and not say anything, not defend your friend, or even if they're saying something that's true, just kind of letting it ride. But if that's your friend, if you're loyal, you're kind, you're going to defend that person, So, and then another thing that I mentioned was encouragement. If you see somebody working hard, go ahead and tell them, like, man, I really like what you did. Like, oh man, like, you look great, or, whatever it is, whatever you see someone doing, like, encourage them. Like, that's a part of kindness too.
And so now that you brought that up and you talked about friendship in the lunchroom, you also mentioned in the book a little something like, you can't really have a real friendship without loving yourself. And then I guess that's to the point that you were just saying, how can I say, oh yeah, I like what you're doing if I'm battling things? Is that kind of like what we're saying? Like, if we're battling within ourselves or haven't found true happiness, it won't pour out to how we treat people?
Exactly. Like I mentioned in the book, it's like pouring from an empty glass. Like, and that's another reason why I started with the foundation of self-love, because you can't give anything, if you don't first love yourself. If you're not pouring into yourself first, you have nothing to give.
And one of the other, I thought it was interesting, we were talking about friendship also, about like, how do you know, like, how people who have friends that don't trust you, or you don't trust them, but you were like in that friendship. We were reading it with some girls that were in high school, and they really were connecting with that. Like, how do you know if someone really is your true friend or not? And how do you show that back to someone else?
Yeah, and I just think that, loyalty is a big thing. Someone who is loyal, being who they say they are to you, someone who is going to be encouraging to you. Like, we have bad days. Are they leaving you when you have a bad day? Or are they like, hey, what's going on? Like, you were a little off today. Is everything okay? Someone where you call them because you're going through, and they're like, I don't feel like dealing with that right now. Like, that, okay, these may not be my real friends. Are they your friends because you always have the nice stuff, or, are they friends because they genuinely care about you? And those are things that they can look out for. Do these people really care about me? Or is this just convenient because we go to the same school?
I'm wondering, when you talk about, since this is a Black girl's guide to inner confidence, I'm wondering, like, when you talk about that, a lot of our girls right now, they're going through this natural journey, right? Where they're cutting their hair off, they're wearing locks, they're wearing their natural hair. My niece, already we were supposed to have a group of girls who were supposed to interview you. And I did want to kind of, just because I wanted them to partake in this. So these are some of the things that they also was wondering. She was saying like if they are trying to go through this natural journey and they want to embrace their culture, what kind of advice would you give them? What kind of advice would you give them if they were going through this journey and keeping this inner guide to like confidence?
So I think even with me at this age, what helps is like going on YouTube and seeing people struggling the same way, that I've struggled, to try to like maintain, the natural hair. And even like girls like that, they spend a lot of time on social media. Follow some pages where, these people are experiencing your same thing, that they're going through the same thing that they're trying the same hairstyles that you're trying, like, take advantage of that community of people. And that will help, that will help you.
We were talking a lot about hair because I was sharing with them that I normally have really curly hair, and I was like the only girl in my school that had really curly hair. And it was like traumatizing for me. I would straighten it every day. Obviously I still do, but like it's interesting. Like I really wish that the TikTok and like YouTube was around when I was in middle school, because it's so encouraging. And like my mom has stick straight hair, so she didn't know how to like show me what to do with my hair, so it was just always like a frizzy mess. So like it's really nice and encouraging to see like what girls have now and how uplifting it is.
Yeah, they do. They have a lot of resources available to them. When I was that age, I was still getting a relaxer. Relaxers were no good for my hair, and I wish I had known what I know now, or even have the resources that I have now back then, in addition to all the mini hair products and things that they have now, so they definitely have an advantage. And I just think like, grab a hold of that community of, women that are, kind of doing the same things that you're doing, because it really does help.
I like what Rebecca just said when she kind of mentioned, like you said, that your mom had straight hair and you had curly, and how like your mom really wasn't able to kind of give you what you needed, right? How do we incorporate mothers?
For sure.
Into the guide, to find inner confidence. If you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, for sure. So one thing about me and why I started with the Love Your Melanin and Respect Her Melanin shirts is I'm dark skinned, and my mom is light, my sister is light. And I never had an issue with my color. I never thought like, oh, I wish I was lighter, because my mother was very intentional. She told me I was beautiful. She told me my skin was beautiful. My mother is big on Black history. So she taught us a lot of Black history, so before I even went out into the world, I was already secure in myself. So when people would make little comments, about dark skinned women, or, it didn't really move me, because I was already secure, I was already secure with, my color and who I was. So I think for mothers, being intentional with their daughters, just like talking to them, tell them that they're beautiful, tell them that their hair is beautiful, even if they're struggling to try to figure it out, because they really need to hear that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And where else do you think, like, if they don't get that from their mother, where are other places they could find that?
Yeah, I think that with even with teachers, anyone that is pouring into young kids should be intentional with that. I used to teach a children's church class, and I would, try to take the girls out to dinner or to, different events downtown, just trying to see where they're at and just really try to encourage them, and I think that anyone that is, has any impact on children should be intentional in doing that.
I wish I was able to read this book before I was a teacher to Black girls.
Yeah. Awesome.
Is this something, Rebecca, even if you mention that, like, what could you pull from this as far as like, because, okay, so we're saying that, okay, parents, right? And then she's also saying like educators. What is like something like our people, like white people who may be in front of the Black students, because that's typically how it goes, right? What is some things that you think we could take from this and put in front of kids?
I think one thing, like being a white educator to kids of color, is acknowledging their color. Like being colorblind is like very detrimental, I think, in that situation. Like acknowledging it, and like this is saying like celebrating, and like talking to them like you would for any other student, like encouraging them and instilling that confidence in them, and not ignoring it, because I think that I found that was really important with my students, because they had a lot of questions, and I think it was helpful to be really open about it.
That's good. That's really good.
Okay, so then it's a scene in the book where you talked about a car thief and being excluded.
Yeah.
And, sometimes, and I can just even say for myself, my personal experience, even though I'm from the neighborhood, I kind of carry myself in a certain type of way. So of course you don't get invited to everything. They don't want you to go to everything. Can you say if is that a good thing sometimes?
Yeah, for sure. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I know, because
I'm excited to answer that.
I know, because I think we want our girls to hear that when you are on a different level, you won't be. And I just want you to kind of talk about that car situation. Not too much giving them much about the book, but enough where it's like encouraging to like the young people that's probably listening.
For sure. So kids do bad things. That's what they do. I was with a group of girls that wanted to be very risky, and I wasn't bold enough to say no, and I didn't want to get anybody in trouble, but I was terrified, and even while we were out, I kind of showed that I was terrified, and they decided when we got back to school that they were going to exclude me. They had talked to me, if it was just me and them, but if anybody else came around, it was like I wasn't there. And I think that for young girls to understand, number one, you're going to be excluded. It just happens. It happens to adults. It's going to happen, especially as they reach those teenage years. But when you're excluded because you don't want to do what they're doing, or because you stand for something different, like, be encouraged by that. Like, I'm glad y'all don't want me to come, because that means that you're true to who you are, and they see that. Because when you stand up for who you are and be committed to who you are, people are going to stop asking you to do things that compromise, your standard. And that's a good thing. That means you're being true to yourself, and that you have integrity.
I love that. That makes me think, like, just the way that you said that. Do you have talks with young girls, or like, have you read this book to girls, or how does that work?
I've not done anything like this, or read to young girls. I've given the book out. I've gotten a lot of feedback from young girls. Before I published the book, I had a young girl at my church kind of edit it for me. I wanted her, she's extremely smart. She was about 13 or 14 at the time. I'm like, just read it. Tell me what you think, and then, edit it for me. And she gave me really good feedback, and she's like, oh, and there's an error on page 33, so, but definitely, like with my goddaughters and things like that, just trying to get feedback, because it's been a long time since I was a teenager, so I just want to ensure that it's reaching them, that they understand it, and that, they can relate to it.
I know we're kind of running out of time, but I got to ask you this. I know, like, towards the back of the book, you had mentioned, you had us answer this question, like, what do we stand for? Mm-hmm. And it took me, like, a little minute to, like, think about it. Like, when you was asking, I'm like, I should know that, right? I'm an adult. I know what I stand for. I've been here for 35 years. My question is, because since it was so hard for me to answer it initially, how often do you think young girls should be asking themselves that?
Oh, every day. I think if they can ask themselves that, and I know it's, it's not always easy to, journal or whatever every day. But if they can review that, daily, what do I stand for? Is this action going against what I stand for? And I think that will help. That will help with the confidence, and that will help establish who they are.
Could you talk about why you chose to have blank pages that say notes in them in between the chapters?
Yeah, for sure. So I just wanted them to be able to jot down things that stuck out to them. I wanted them to be able to answer the questions, and this is their book. It's personal, it's not something that anybody else has to see, but kind of treat it like a journal, like, just kind of write down things that stood out to them.
So one thing that Rose Cafe does is we personalize a lot of boxes. So I do want to let you know that we will be supporting you. So we will be putting your book in some of the boxes as we make boxes, just for, like, if they told me, like, yeah, they got like a 13, 14-year-old daughter, I'm definitely going to recommend your book. We already bought a lot. So that's one of our missions, is to highlight local artists and, like, bring back that love of writing, love of journaling, and just sharing stories, because our ancestors did that so much. We share stories, right? And so just learning of your journal, it just made me a little closer to you, just from your, even though we went to college together. So now I got another piece.
Yeah.
So we wanted to let you know that's one of our ways to support you, to make sure that we get your book out there and let people know that a lot of girls should have this book on their dresser.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this opportunity. The goal here is to reach young Black girls, so any opportunity that I have to do that, I'm so grateful. I really appreciate this time.
Well, do you have anything else, Ms. Zimmerman?
That's it for me. I just wanted to thank you. I loved hearing this. And after hearing you talk about it, it makes me love the book even more. And I feel like I found your next job at going into schools and, like, talking to girls about the book.
Thank you so much. That would be awesome.
It's inspirational.
That would be so great.
You want to come in? You want to come in June and talk to some girls?
Absolutely, yes.
We are actually doing a march through Roseland in June for Juneteenth.
Okay. Wow, that's great.
So if you had some minutes to kind of, like, encourage the girls that's out there, we would love to have you, Melodie.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I would absolutely love to be there.
So what I could do is, moving forward, I can send you the information, and this is probably one of the biggest marches that I'm planning on to have in Roseland on the south side of Chicago. So it's just to raise awareness about what we're doing positively, and just seeing, like, a lot of Black entrepreneurs rising. And I need everybody to see it.
Okay, great. Yeah, that would be awesome.
I would definitely keep you in the loop, Melodie.
Thank you so much.
Okay, well, thank you for joining us today, and we'll send all our author shirts, so we'll be sending you a shirt pretty soon.
Great. Thank you. Thank you guys so much. It was nice meeting you.
You too. Bye.
Bye.